All right, welcome to Newsroom Live here at Fox 5's Newsroom on East 67th Street on Manhattan's Upper East Side. It's November 10th, 7:02 p.m. We are on the verge of a deal to end the government shutdown. We want to show you some of the things that are going on right now. Let's go straight to what's going on the Senate floor in Washington, D.C. We're in day 41 of this government shutdown, and the big break came yesterday evening, actually, while we were doing this, while we were here on Newsroom Live talking to you guys about an end to the stalemate, I think is the way to characterize it, as a small group of Senate Democrats decided to vote with Republicans to end the government shutdown. But it is not a happy moment. There are many members of the Democratic Party who feel that this is a capitulation, or we've heard the word surrender, and we've heard even stronger words, and many are angry because the point of the government shutdown was to extend the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act, and that is not done. All that's done in this agreement is a promise that at some point in December that the Senate will put it to a vote, which is already kind of wobbly. And then it does not guarantee that the House will vote on it. So the chances of the extension of that subsidy is, as some might call it, slim to none. That is what angers a lot of Democrats who said that that's the point of putting everybody through this pain was to do exactly that. Before we proceed any further, let's have a listen in to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries today as he spoke on the subject. No worries. We're working this out.
What?
I first want to say thank you.
All right, as we cue that up, I'll explain that there are members of the House who are going to vote on, well, the House is getting called back right now. The Senate is expected to maybe make this vote happen at some point tonight. We're going to talk to Linda Schmidt about that in a moment. And then it'll go to the House floor for a vote as well. If Republicans get enough votes there as well, then it would seem that the shutdown is over. And in the meantime, there are some implications, some key implications to this nationally. Two of the most prominent ones that we've talked about is what's been happening at our airports. 40 airports across the U.S. are experiencing an extraordinary number of cancellations and delays. And that's part of the impact. Teresa Priolo is going to be here to talk about that in the next hour as we start tonight with a special extended, well, it's not special anymore. This is going to be what we do on a regular basis. We're going to go 2 hours on this Newsroom Live dealio from 7 p.m. Eastern until 9 p.m. Eastern. So Teresa Priolo is going to be here in the second half, and then later on this half too, we're going to talk about the interruption to the food stamp program, which is known popularly as SNAP benefits. But let's go over to hear what Hakeem Jeffries had to say today. Obviously not happy with the deal that some Democrats have struck to go over to the Republican side to end the shutdown.
From the very beginning of this year, Donald Trump and Republicans have failed to deliver on their core promise to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America. In fact, what Donald Trump and Republicans said is that costs were going to go down on day one. But costs haven't gone down. They're going up. Inflation is going up. Under Republican policies, housing costs are going up. Child care costs are going up. Grocery costs are going up. Electricity prices are through the roof. And now, because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, tens of millions of Americans are about to experience dramatically increased health care costs. In some cases, their health insurance premiums will increase by $1,000 or $2,000 per year. That is unacceptable. It will be unaffordable for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans to be able to go see a doctor when they need one. And so House Democrats and Senate Democrats have been fighting hard to address the Republican health care crisis. Here's what I understand about the SNAP situation. Republicans this year on July 3rd, subsequently signed into law by the current president, enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripping away health insurance from at least 14 million Americans, and at the same period of time, cut $186 billion from SNAP. Republicans did that. This year, they literally ripped food from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans so they could reward their billionaire donors with massive tax breaks that they made permanent. That's what Republicans did. They've launched an all-out assault on SNAP. They've weaponized hunger and starvation here in America, taken SNAP benefits away from more than 1 million veterans rather than honoring them tomorrow, which is what should be taking place in the United States of America. Republicans have done that. And so these people can't be trusted on the cost of living issue. These Republican extremists, they can't be trusted on the health care issue. And they certainly cannot be trusted on the SNAP issue.
Joined by Linda Schmidt right now. We heard Hakeem Jeffries not happy with the developments in Washington. He thinks they should continue fighting until there's at least a guarantee that the healthcare subsidies continue. You've been following this for us all day today.
Yeah.
Get us up to speed.
And you know what? He's not the only one either, Arthur. I mean, there are many Democrats who are saying we have given up the fight here. I heard you use the word earlier, surrender. We have surrendered to the Trump administration on this issue, and we are sacrificing health care coverage for millions of Americans across this country because Obamacare was created to help provide health insurance for people who really cannot afford health insurance. And I saw a write-up not too long ago that was talking about the average person that is going to be affected when the Obamacare subsidies expire at the end of this year. They expire on January 1. So say, for example, you're making $28,000 a year. Right now, if you're on Obamacare, you're paying about $352 a year. If the subsidies, the tax credits that you get, if they expire at the end of the year, then your health insurance coverage is going to skyrocket to about $1,500 a year, and that's for somebody making 28 grand. Somebody making 28 grand a year, you're not bringing home 28 grand. After taxes and everything, you're what? You're bringing home maybe 20, 21, and then you're paying $1,500 a year in health insurance, and that's just for one person. What if you're married, you have a family? So that's the point that the Democrats are really pushing on here with this issue. You know, so Jeffries is not the only one. Charles Schumer, of course, is very upset about this. And the thing of it is too with this, Arthur, and nobody's really saying this right now, is that even if once the Senate they approve this deal, because it looks like it's going to go through, and they're supposed to vote on this tonight. Once it goes through, it only gets us to the end of January. All right, so that gives us like 2 months and where are we right now? November, 10th?
Months.
2.5 months, gives us 2.5 months. And then we are right back where we are right now. Congress would then have to pass another spending bill to get us through another year or pass an extension. So we could be going through all of this again by the end of January.
Right, which is what we did during the first Trump presidency as well, right? And we're looking at the Senate floor right now. Do you think this vote takes place tonight?
Well, they're saying that it's supposed to take place tonight, but they're going through a couple of procedural votes first, because whenever you have any of these type of bills, as you know, it's never just the bill they're voting on.
They jam
they jam it with other issues. Like Rand Paul is trying to put something in there dealing with, Senator Rand Paul is trying to put something in there dealing with the sale of hemp. Now, what that has to do with funding the federal government,
just an opportunity.
It's an opportunity to ram other issues in, pork barrel type things through. So that's what they're working on here right now. And they are saying that they're going to be voting on this tonight, but who knows? That could be at midnight, it could be at 2 o'clock in the morning, who knows? But in the meantime, you know, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, he is already urging members of the House to come back because they haven't voted on anything now. They've been on an extended recess for 2 months now. So everybody, those who did not
paid
stay,
recess, we might add,
that's
with
right.
health care
That's
and whatever their food plan is.
Yeah, that's right, which has been a big criticism from a lot of people who I've been interviewing interviewing, especially at the airports,
Now, one
saying,
of the
look,
things-
it's affecting me, it's affecting my kid who works for the federal government, but the senators and congressmen, they're still getting their paychecks.
Right, and one of the things you mentioned being jammed in is continued pay for Congress as well,
Right.
in this bill. So
Right.
how convenient, right? All right.
So we'll see if they end up voting on this tonight, but it looks like it is going to pass, and then it would have to go to the House. So I just read something a few minutes ago that Mike Johnson was saying maybe at the earliest the House would get it by Wednesday, and so they could vote on it by Wednesday, and maybe the government shutdown would be over. Maybe, these are all big ifs here, maybe by the end of the week. But when you talk about the effect that this has had on the travel industry and the airports, because Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has said multiple times now, once the government shutdown is over, it's not like, boom, everything's back to normal at the airports. That's not how it works. He's saying it will take days to get the system ramped back up to where it's supposed to be.
And also, I hear Trump tonight, and before I know you have some sound from the president, but he's also slamming controllers who are out. But a lot of controllers, they've got to take jobs to be able to pay bills right now because their rent bills, their food bills, their groceries,
They have no
those
money.
are things they still have to pay for.
Right.
So what is the president saying about this?
Okay, and I do want to bounce off of what you just said there, because a lot of people, look, most Americans, and I'm not saying this is air traffic controllers, but most Americans live paycheck to paycheck. It's just the way it is. And if you're an air traffic controller and you haven't received a paycheck since October 1st, how are you paying all those bills that you talked about, especially if you have a family? So they are calling out sick and they are frustrated and they say they are overworked. But the president was asked about this whole issue, and he says he supports this deal that's on the table right now. And at a press conference earlier this afternoon, I guess it was around 4 o'clock, he was asked about this. He was at the White House. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
Do you personally approve of the deal that's happening right now on Capitol Hill to end the government
Well, it
shutdown?
depends what deal we're talking about, but if it's a deal I heard about, that's certainly, they want to change the deal a little bit, but I would say so. I think based on everything I'm hearing, they haven't changed anything, and we have support from enough Democrats, and we're going to be opening up our country. It's too bad it was closed, but we'll be opening up our country very quickly.
Mr. President, that deal does reverse the mass firings your administration put through during the shutdown. Did you sign off on that, and will you abide by that if this passes?
Well, I will be. I'll abide by the deal. The deal is very good. We're not going to be giving $1.5 trillion to people that came in from jails and from, the gangs and drug dealers and all of these others that they wanted to be given health care, which would have hurt our health care system. I hope that we're going to be able to have a health care where Lindsay and I were discussing it, Jim and I were discussing it, and Katie, we discussed it. We want a health care system where we pay the money to the people instead of the insurance companies. And I tell you, we're going to be working on that very hard over the next short period of time.
President Trump there saying they're going to work on it hard over the next period of time, but you were just saying what the Democrats get out of this is pretty mushy, right? With just the vote next month, and no guarantee that that's going to be supportive of the extension of the subsidy.
That's right. Senator Thune is saying, look, okay, now we've got this deal. We'll take a look at extending the Obamacare tax credits in mid-December. But there's no guarantee that they're going to pass it. They're saying, yeah, we'll look at it, we'll talk about it, but there's no guarantee we're going to extend it.
Right.
So right now, the Democrats are in a pretty much like a lose-lose situation here, because they went to the mat on this, and the whole issue was Obamacare. They're not getting it right now. They may not get it next month either.
Right. I see what's being circulated online right now are the 8 senators, the 8 Democratic senators who voted with the Republicans on this.
Right.
There might be some repercussions for them, but certainly not this week, right? And for what you say in terms of what's promised in this, in terms of the vote next month, it sounds like grammatically it's a definite maybe. We will definitely maybe vote
we'll
on
talk
it.
about
Right.
it, but we're
We
not saying that we're going to
maybe.
pass it.
Right.
Right.
All right.
And then, we're talking about the midterms next year, too. So everybody is thinking, every single member of Congress, they're thinking about that. Wait a second, how's this going to work out for me in 2026 when I'm running for re-election?
And that's why I think the Democrats were considered to be in a driving position towards the end of last week, because if they were to pass an extension, they could have punted it long enough for
That's
the
right.
midterms to be in public discourse.
Sure.
But right now, funding it through January 31st, you've got nothing.
You've given,
You
that's
accomplished
right.
nothing,
They've got a
It
big
seems like
zero.
it. It seems like it.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it goes. Linda Schmidt's going to be hard at work because she's back on at 10 o'clock. Thanks so much for taking the time and explaining
love
this
it.
to us.
Yeah, no problem.
I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Have a good night.
Let's show you some of what we want to queue up. Linda talked about the airports, but certainly the food situation in this country is one that also, for some, travel is business. For some, it's a luxury, but food is a necessity for Americans. And what we've seen in New York, and we'll pull up some of the video here, for weeks now, we have been going to food banks around the city, and the scene has been the same. Now, food banks generally have a degree of demand, but it has really, I don't know if it's an overstatement to say skyrocketed. That's a term that a food bank that I was at last week they told me as of last Wednesday that they're outputting about 35% more food than they normally would. And they're especially concerned that as we get to the holidays, food demand goes up. And also, the loneliness epidemic in this country is one that goes directly to the mental health of Americans, and they were really worried about how people would feel, and also if they would actually go hungry during the holidays, which are just around the corner as Thanksgiving begins. Well, our Stephanie Bertini was at a food bank location in Harlem today. She spoke with, you're going to hear, the first person you're going to hear from, and I want to be specific here, is the Associate Director of the Community Kitchen of the Food Bank for New York City, is Samantha Burgos. And then she also spoke with an individual who was there, who they served today. Let's have a listen in on what Stephanie Bertini's conversations were like there.
I mean, we've been feeling it ourselves. Our numbers have been increasing, and more so, we've been connecting with our clients, our neighbors, and we're seeing their anxiety increase. They know that they can rely on SNAP and Food Bank for New York City, and now that SNAP has gone away, they're trying to meet that additional need.
We basically need to eat to live, but some people don't have enough. So if they have only SNAP as option, how can they live on this planet or in this city?
Right, that initiates our discussion about the food stamp payment facet of this government shutdown. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to get more into that. All right, you're back now. Newsroom Live. We, as of today, have begun our evening, have expanded our evening hours from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every night. We're going to get to talk to you in a non-algorithm based format to tell you about things that you need to know, not just what you want to hear. And
like
speaking of that, the
Yes.
weather forecast, it's kind of like that.
You may not want to hear that, right?
Exactly.
There's some things you want to hear, and there's some things you don't want to hear.
Our amazing meteorologist Nick Gregory is here to enlighten us a little bit more about the week we're having, and we're gonna have a little discussion about ice skating rinks around the city. But first, how are we looking?
Well, it's
cold
perfect.
outside.
Perfect lead into the ice skating rink
Right.
because it's going to be cold enough for that. At least get you in the spirit of things. The temperature's been dropping about 1 degree per hour. The last 3-4 hours, just to give you an idea where we're headed. Right?
Yeah,
We
so
started
it was
out
the
the
warmest
day.
at the beginning of the day. Is that what
Yeah,
it was?
early this morning it was like 58 degrees, 59 degrees. It's now 40. So,
Okay.
so we're heading down, and again, that's what it's going to look like out the door in the morning. If you could take the other source, actually, and show us our futurecast here. So that's the storm that went by, and notice, Arthur, what's going on in western New York State. Look at the snow squalls. Watch about tomorrow afternoon. See the little blue streaks? Maybe little snow showers here tomorrow afternoon. So it gives you an idea.
Really? We might get that?
We
A touch
might.
of it? All
Yeah,
right.
the possibility. And probably not on Wednesday. It's just sort of mix of sun and clouds. But gusty winds going to continue. The winds could gust to 30 miles per hour tonight and gust to 40, 45 miles per hour tomorrow. So that'll be just an added wind chill, right? So here's our overnight lows. Look at the city, 33. So yeah, we have a freeze warning for the city and the coast.
Is that our first one for the season?
First one for the season, yep. Includes Long Island, Lower Connecticut, Lower Westchester, and Northeast New Jersey. Look north and west, 20s, low 20s. So again, a sign of the season. And then tomorrow, we should have a high of about 56. Take a look.
Should have.
So
Okay,
should have.
should.
We're only in the low 40s tomorrow. Gusty wind, and again, some snow showers may dot the area, particularly north of the city into the afternoon, but that's way below average. And we're likely not to see our average high temperature most of this week ahead. It's going to stay chilly, a little gusty breeze coming up. You can see here in the 7-day. Wednesday we'll still get to 50, a little bit windy. Low 50s Thursday, Friday, some sunshine, and no big storms until maybe even that then doesn't look like a big storm. Maybe a little rain by later Sunday and Monday.
Did I read something about a polar vortex today? Is that what we're seeing?
Well, this is a piece of the puzzle there. Yes. So the polar vortex, what it can do is, you have to think first of all what it is, right? So it's this area of low pressure that sits over the North Pole, and the Arctic air kind of rotates around it like a merry-go-round. Well, if that gets disturbed or fractured is what we call it. So then what happens is it turns wavy, and then pieces of the Arctic air break off and come down to the North America.
Okay.
So this is actually one of those little waves broke off the polar vortex. Now, when it does it now, it's not so bad. When it does it in January, then it gets really cold.
That brings me to a question of when it feels like sometimes when we get a polar vortex, it's a type of winter when we get it more than once. So is this a sign of me?
Well, I mean, it may be
we've already broken the seal on the polar vortex.
Yeah, I mean, it comes and goes, right? It may retreat northward again for several weeks and then comes back down again. That's probably what we're going to see this year. It's not going to be consistent. There's some other elements working into the fray besides just the polar vortex that we look at. Of course, the discussion we've had about La Nina, that type of thing. But I think the outlook for the polar vortex is it'll be fractured from time to time. So we'll get bursts of these little cold outbreaks, but then it retreats.
And then you had said to me a couple of weeks ago, and it was still really nice, you're like, when it gets cold, it's going to maybe come cold quickly. Yeah. You didn't commit to it, but you're like, it feels like winter would be harsh, especially in the front end.
I think it's going to come on early. I think December, we'll start to see it's going to come on hard in December till about the second week of January. Then we're going to get a break for a while, and it comes back hard again, middle to the end of February, early March. And then that'll be about it. So.
How much did the precipitation help this weekend? Because you said we were about 8 inches behind?
Yeah, almost 9 inches behind for the year. So it didn't really help that much. I mean, it helps a little bit.
Does it have to help in the city, or does it have to help
well,
further north where the reservoirs are, right?
Yes,
so just like, okay.
Yes, I mean, you'd want it to do that as well. I mean, it's nice in the city because it cleans out the streets.
Yeah, I know. That's all, dog parks and that kind of stuff.
Exactly,
right?
but you want it, of course, in reservoir country, as you get up into the Catskills region, up that way. So.
Okay, yeah, let's hope it stays up there. And then last question, tomorrow is the parade. Starts, I think, at noon, if I have it right. how's it going?
It's windy, cold.
Okay.
You know,
No
again,
rain at least,
No
right?
rain, except again there'll be sort of building clouds, and then that little snow shower threat in the afternoon, even here in the city. So that would be something to watch out for. But really, it's just dress appropriately because you're talking temperature around noon, maybe 39 degrees, with a 30, 40 mile an hour wind. That's going to put the wind chill, down in the upper 20s.
Okay.
So
Not too pleasant.
Yeah,
but
not
all
too
right.
pleasant. So be prepared for that. So.
Okay. Well, now, there's one thing I want to talk to you about before you go.
All right.
You've been in New York a long time. Brian Kay is going to play some of the Domino ice skating rink.
Ah, yes, it's opened
stuff
up, didn't
today.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there
I
you
think
go.
it opened up today. And here's an insider tip: there are discounts. So if you're going to go there, take a look online for some of the discounts that are offered at this one in particular, at Domino Ice Skating Rink. I think I saw some stuff flown out there for either 10% off, 20% off in these tariff times.
That's
We're
my
saving that
thinking.
money.
Why pay full price when you don't have to?
Right.
So-
Exactly. Let's be smart about it. So usually, I think when we talk about ice skating in the city, what do we think of? Like Woolman Ring,
Woolman Rink, the Rockefeller Center, right? The
Right.
skating rink there.
and
of
Bryant
course.
Park.
Bryant Park. I was
But
I was
we
gonna say
found a
about
list,
Bryant
or I
Park.
found a list, and it named a couple that were a pretty good idea. Domino Park here, LaFrac Center at Lakeside. Have you been?
I didn't know
Prospect
that.
Park.
No,
I think
that's-
I've been to that
that's-
one. Abe Stark Rink on Coney Island Boardwalk. You can get a
Why
hot
not?
dog while you're
There
out
you go.
there. And Industry City, which is also, a lot of these are Brooklyn heavy. Industry City has one. And the last one is Roebling Rink in Brooklyn Bridge Park. So,
Okay. Well, what's great about this one is the view, right? I mean,
Right.
this is a spectacular view in that area there, right? So
it is, and the Manhattan skyline is
yeah.
behind it. It's funny, like, if you want the best view of the city, you got to be outside of the city. Not to,
Yeah.
Brooklyn is the city, but I mean, if you want the best view
Right,
of
to
Manhattan,
look back at Manhattan.
right, you got to
Exactly.
leave Manhattan for the best view, which is always kind of odd.
That's right. But yeah, sign of the times. Get the skates out, and certainly going to be feeling a lot like December versus November tomorrow. So
Whenever
there you
you're
go.
ready, I got the list. So.
All right. I only go for the discounts.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Nick Gerge, thanks so
All right,
much.
I'll see you later.
I appreciate it. We'll take a break right now. Hi, welcome back to Newsroom Live. It's now 7:30 on this Monday night. We have officially expanded our Newsroom Live in the evening to 2 hours now. It's going to be 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You catch it on Fox Local. You can also catch it on our YouTube channel. And right now, you know what? We're going to go to the Senate floor where Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell is speaking right now as they are trying to break the stalemate, apparently have enough votes because some Democrats have gone over to vote with Republicans. Let's listen into what's happening on the floor right now as they try to end the shutdown.
legislation by taking legal amounts of THC from hemp and turning it into intoxicating substances and then marketing it to children in candy-like packaging and selling it easily accessible places like gas stations and convenience stores all across our country. So children end up being the unknowing consuming of these poisonous products and being sent to the hospital at an alarming rate. My efforts to close the loophole and stop this from happening are included in this appropriations package. It will keep these dangerous products out of the hands of children while preserving the hemp industry for farmers. Industrial hemp and CBD will remain legal for industrial applications such as seed, stock, fiber, grain oil, or used in drug trials.
Okay, it might seem out of place to hear Senator Mitch McConnell talking about CBD, and we want to explain what's happening and keep an eye on what's happening on the Senate floor, because what's supposed to happen overall is they're supposed to vote tonight to end the stalemate on the government shutdown. It would then go to the House for a vote, and we'll get into that later. What's happening right now is they're voting on the full package, and as Linda Schmidt explained earlier, there's an attempt by some senators to jam some extra things into the funding bill, sort of like pork barrel style insertions into any sort of deal that's agreed upon tonight. But the key parts that we're going to listen for is SNAP food benefits and other programs that have been interrupted because of the government shutdown, one that affects millions of New Yorkers who tell us that they're going hungry, that their kitchens are becoming empty, their refrigerators are empty, and they're really worried for their food. This will also involve, they have to decide on back pay for furloughed federal workers, whether or not they offer jobs back to federal workers who were fired by the Trump administration during since the shutdown began 41 days ago. That is still currently in doubt and still needs to be worked out. And of course, the key is the expiring health care subsidies, which was at the heart of the Democrats moving to force this situation to get the government to extend the subsidies for those relying, for the tens of millions of Americans relying on the Affordable Care Act, without which their subsidies as of January 1st, I was going to say more than doubled, but Linda Schmidt gave us the numbers before, and in some cases for families who are paying $350 a year, she says it goes up to $1,500. That's a lot more than double. Now let's have a listen back into the Senate floor to see if anybody is speaking right now, or if it is that they're between speakers. We don't want to miss anything. Okay, so we'll continue on. When the next speaker comes, we'll have a listen in. Linda had said that it was Senator Rand Paul who was trying to put in something on hemp. It's like I said, there's a purpose for how things work in Washington, but there is a lot at stake. As we continue to look at this, two other developments out of Washington today, one having to do with the Supreme Court. It rejected an appeal to overturn its same-sex marriage ruling. The justices, without comment, turned away an appeal from Kim Davis. If you remember, she was a Kentucky court clerk, kind of appropriate because the Kentucky speaker was just, the Kentucky senator was speaking just now. Kim Davis refused to issue a marriage license to a same-sex couple. I think this was in around 2015. The case is known as Obergefell versus Hodges, and the court today agreed to decide before the 2026 election whether or not states can continue to count late arriving mail ballots as well. That is a target in President Donald Trump's sights. Now, speaking of President Trump today, he also proclaimed pardons, or last night, for former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and I believe Sidney Powell as well, for their efforts to overturn the actual results of the 2020 election, which Donald Trump then lost. He has been allowing his allies to sidestep legal ramifications. Now, the decision by President Trump to pardon Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell does not affect state cases, but the state cases right now, including one in Georgia, are sort of running in place and not doing much. Now, let's turn our attention to the other focus that we had, which were about the impacts of this government shutdown, and in particular on Americans who go hungry. Now, 42 million Americans rely on what is called SNAP benefits. That's a food stamp program. 42 Americans nationwide, most of them are families. Here in New York, it's about 3 million. In one part of Harlem alone, the congressman there last week told us 300,000 of his constituents receive SNAP benefits. Now, these food banks are really being pressed right now, and New York is one of the states, Governor Kathy Hochul ordering yesterday for New York to still pay out SNAP benefits to New York recipients. That is something that the Trump administration is against. They, over the weekend, ordered states that said that they were going to make those payments to undo that and to suspend those payments. And today, again, for a second time after this weekend, the Trump administration went to the Supreme Court and asked them to not, they asked them for approval to not fund SNAP benefits, which two federal courts had ordered the Trump administration to do with emergency funds. One was Rhode Island-based U.S. District Judge John McConnell, who ordered full funding for SNAP benefits. That was on Friday. So the Supreme Court over the weekend said, okay, we'll suspend it for now. And then Trump said, we also want to undo the order, and continues that today. So while in the framework of everything happening and what we're seeing at food banks here in New York, the Trump administration is actually saying we don't want any more money to go out to SNAP recipients. Very interesting time. All right, we're going to take another break here. When we come back, we're going to look forward and talk about tomorrow being Veterans Day, and also a particular cause that Fox 5 and Fox is behind. It's a camo themed effort, and we'll get into that after this break. Welcome back to Fox 5 and Newsroom Live. It is 7:40 p.m. on this Monday, November 10th. This is our first night of our extended 2 hours of Newsroom Live, when we talk to you in an upfront way and not rely on any algorithms. We'll tell you what you need to know. Now, what we want you to know is how Fox 5 is supporting this particular cause, which is Make Camo Your Cause. This is because of the station and Fox 5's commitment to veterans and organizations that serve them on a daily basis. and our firm belief that these veterans deserve to be treated with dignity and independence, and how it's just not right for them to deal with homelessness and insecurity in that domain. So we are making Camo our cause in support of the Honor U.S. Vets campaign. You can join us by making a donation, by picking up limited edition Fox U.S. Vets merchandise, and also by wearing camo tomorrow on Veterans Day. You can post onto your socials with a hashtag Honor U.S. Vets so we can see it and work with that. And if you want to donate, shop, or learn more, you can help in our fight against homelessness of veterans by scanning the QR code when we do put it on later. We don't have to put it on right now, Brian, it's okay. And you can also go to Fox/US Vets. All right. Now, tomorrow is the 106th annual Veterans Day Parade in New York City. It's on 5th Avenue. It starts at noon. It begins at 23rd Street and goes all the way up to 45th Street. It wraps up around 3:30. You heard Nick Gregory say it is going to be kind of chilly and kind of windy out. So be prepared for that when you do go out for it, but probably in years past too. You know, you see jackets. This is from last year. This is the largest event in the country honoring our military men and women. And one of this year's Grand Marshals is Clinton Romasha Shea, who is a former Army Staff Sergeant and Medal of Honor recipient who served in both Iraq and in Afghanistan. And just a short time ago, he was on with our Bianca Peters and Natasha Verma. Let's listen into what he had to say about this day that's just around the corner.
And one of this year's Grand Marshals is Clint Romashe, a former Army Staff Sergeant and Medal of Honor recipient who served in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Clint joins us now. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for bringing the Medal of Honor. I've never been able to see this in person. What an honor it is for you to, first of all, be here, and for tomorrow to serve in the capacity. But take us back to that time we were talking about what happened and why you were awarded this Medal of Honor.
You know, I mean, tomorrow's Veterans Day, which is, I mean, what a great day to sit here and think about all the men and women that put that uniform on. Like me, so many, we joined for one reason, we serve for another. That's what we have in common as veterans. When I joined in '99, I didn't think in a million years I'd ever meet a Medal of Honor recipient, let alone be one. So after 10 years of service and finding myself in Afghanistan with 50 other great Americans and 8 that lost their lives that day on October 3rd, 2009, we were at Combat Outpost Keating, got hit with 400 Taliban fighters, and after, like I said, 15 hours, they'd overran our defensive positions. We were able to push them back, and like I said, that brotherhood, that teamwork, and that concept of love of your fellow brothers to your left and right. They're doing your jobs, so you just got to do, you know, yours. And it was because of that we overcame that day.
You're such an inspiration, and thank you so much for your service. You got this medal, one of the medals you actually returned 4 years later. Why did you do that?
You know, for me, the medal I received from President Obama in 2013, it meant a lot more to go back to 4th ID, and I put it at the 4th Infantry Division headquarters there at Fort Carson. So all of those soldiers that come through there see what our history, our lineage was, and to have them understand too, like I said, at 18 years old when I joined, I didn't know where life was going to take me, and it's those moments that service the country, you'll be faced with these difficulties and challenges, but we have it all in us to raise up and stand up to do the right things for the right reasons. And I wanted all those to see that coming through Fort Carson. So now I wear my duplicate, not my original.
Oh, I see. I understand now, yeah.
You're obviously an advocate. I see you're wearing AWP. Let the viewers know what, first of all, that stands for and why you're so passionate about this cause. You know,
I've been with America's Warrior Partnership for almost a decade now, and they partner with local communities to help end veteran suicide. They understand that by collaborating with other nonprofit organizations, veteran service organizations, to help in local communities solve problems for veterans back in their own communities. And then when they hit stumbling blocks, we help educate them for the benefits and stuff they've earned, and continue to be there to understand there's not one perfect solution that's going to end veteran suicide. It's not a program. It's going to be an outcome of doing really great work, and that's what America Warrior Partnership is bringing to the fight for all of our veterans.
Wow. When you came back from overseas, just kind of talk to us about what you went through also mentally coming back and being immersed into real life. I mean, it's so hard for so many of us to even imagine what that's like.
You know, I have to give it, you know, especially on the eve of Veterans Day, I think back to my dad, who was Vietnam. My granddad served in World War II, but especially the Vietnam veterans. When they came back, they did not come back to cheering crowds. They came back getting told to take their uniform off in the airport and throw it away and just go back home. And it was that generation that made sure every time I stepped foot back here in the U.S. that I came home to cheering crowds. And for all of those Vietnam veterans, thank you guys so much for that. Welcome home, boys, and keep up the great work, because my generation can never forget what they did for us.
Absolutely.
I can hear you get emotional speaking about that. And I feel like maybe a bit now there might be a repeat of that. Some people are afraid to put American flags. It's a different symbol, and I know it's a divided country in terms of how we feel about these things. But what does tomorrow mean for you, especially being the Grand Marshal? You're going to see plenty of American flags and a lot of patriotism there, where there's sort of a lack of nowadays.
That's the great thing with military service is we all come from different backgrounds. Growing up in this country, we all kind of maybe grow up in our little bubbles of what we think America is. But day one of basic training, you're now thrown into a platoon for, in my case, down at Fort Knox with 40 other guys from the East Coast to the West Coast to the North to the South. And all of a sudden, you get to see a whole snapshot of what America is. And when you serve with those great men and women, when the chips are down and things are tough, you're not thinking about politics. You're thinking about, I got to do my job because they're going to do theirs. Yeah. And that brotherly love and having the title of being called a veteran after service is something that very few Americans that haven't served will never quite understand. But it's great to be a veteran to share our stories and continue to show up for tomorrow.
Well, Clint, you were a powerful voice and inspiration. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate you.
All right, that was...
Well, for many...
That was a discussion that was had with our Bianca Peters and Natasha Verma on our 6 o'clock newscast, and that's not the only place that we've been covering it. We've been trying to cover it on every newscast, and this morning on Good Day New York with Rosanna Scotto and Dan Bowens, this is what aired.
Well, for many veterans and their families, coping with PTSD is often difficult, very challenging. The Heroic Hearts Project is helping veterans and their loved ones find healing from trauma in very non-traditional ways.
Very non-traditional. Joining us now with more, Jesse Gould, the founder and president of Heroic Hearts Project. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We talk about non-traditional, and let's just get straight to it. I mean, we're talking about psychedelics,
absolutely,
like mushrooms, psilocybin. What are we talking about here in terms of this?
So in addition to those, also non-conventional, like MDMA, which is the chemical component in ecstasy. Right. Ketamine's been used for therapy, but also, to your point, hallucinogenics like magic mushrooms, something called ayahuasca, DMT. All these things that have been really stigmatized for the past few decades are having a reemergence, especially in the last 10 years, because they're showing to be so effective for treating PTSD, depression, anxiety, addiction. And so there's this renaissance, so to speak, of research coming around supporting this. And really with veterans, there has not been great answers. The veteran suicide crisis is absolutely devastating.
Yeah, we hear a lot about that.
And this is actually showing a breath of hope for thousands, if not tens of thousands of veterans.
And for you, it's personal.
Absolutely.
So you were Green
Ranger.
Army Ranger, sorry.
Yeah.
Army Ranger, and you came back and you were suffering yourself, and this became an answer for you.
Yeah, I was an Army Ranger. I did 3 combat deployments in Afghanistan. I was a mortar section leader, so in charge of a lot of junior Rangers. Had a really successful military career, but like many others, got out and just struggled with mental health issues and substance abuse. And the only option for me, realistically, was to be on medication the rest of my life. That was what was offered.
Medication.
Traditional, like SSRIs. And I didn't want to, at the age of 28, just acquiesce to that. And never did psychedelics, had all the stigma in the world as everybody of like, how the hell is that drug gonna help you? But traveled to South America, took a leap of faith after hearing about this. And to my surprise, it wasn't anything like doing drugs that people told me about. It was challenging, but also life-saving.
I saw this on 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
You were actually part of that group that they photographed.
Absolutely.
So was it an immediate change in how you felt, or is it something that you have to keep doing?
It really depends person to person. Sometimes you can see pretty drastic changes after one or a couple of ceremonies, and generally there's multiple ceremonies involved with this. But over the course of those ceremonies, you do see more often than not significant change, and you see this in the 60 Minutes where the majority of the veterans there had noticeable changes right afterwards. A lot of veterans do end up going back to these ceremonies or treatments, but it's over the course of multiple years. So maybe one every 2 years or 3 years versus traditional medication where you have to take it every day or multiple times a day. And just in terms of the side effects, much less. And this is by no means a magic pill. You also see in the 60 Minutes piece, there's one veteran that had a really struggling time and he's had to go back on medication. And so we're still working with him. And so it's not 100%, nothing's 100%, but it is opening up new tools for veterans, especially those that have not found benefit through SSRIs and other medications.
So Heroic Hearts, your organization, how does it kind of help bridge the gap here?
So because these are so stigmatized, it's really bringing veteran voices like I'm here today and normalizing it. You know, I don't fall into the stereotypes of somebody you normally would expect to be advocating for psychedelics, right? And bringing like rational talk about it of like it's not a magic pill, there is science behind it. And so having these conversations, bringing it to policymakers, we work in DC talking to senators, representatives.
Because you can't get this here, right? You have
it's
to travel.
Illegal in the US. These
Illegal.
are all Schedule I, the highest restricted drugs in the country. And so you have to go overseas. There are states where that's changing. So Oregon and Colorado passed, but the vast majority of the veterans we serve, and we served about 1,000 veterans so far, have had to go to South America to get these treatments, which is in itself a travesty that our nation's heroes have to go to another country to get life-saving care. And this is life-saving care because the majority of these people are on the brink of hopelessness, on the brink of suicide. Estimated 17 to 44 veterans take their own life every single day. Estimated 150,000 veterans have died by suicide over the last 20 years, as compared to 9,000 that died in combat.
I did a little bit of research about this, spoke to a professor at NYU, Langone, about some of the effects of what actually happens when you take some of these hallucinogenics or psychedelics, MDMA, and part of it is your brain is able to make connections with other parts of your brain that it doesn't normally make, which can kind of rewire your thinking, which then would help with a PTSD kind of situation.
Absolutely. And there's some early evidence of it actually healing the brain, neurogenesis. But to your point, that's the scientific term is plasticity. And one of the big things with trauma is this reframing. And if you talk to any therapist, it's having this story or having how you interpret an event and then reframing it into a different way and then helping you move past that.
Because this isn't a recreational thing. This is what you're talking about is guided experiences that are in themselves therapy.
Exactly. And that's what we caution veterans or families of veterans. This is not me advocating go find some mushrooms by your local dealer and take this into your own hands. This is serious stuff. And that's where our program comes in as well, is we do very curated, very controlled retreats, programs with veterans that is multiple months. So there's intake, there's preparation, there's something called integration, there's a very controlled container for it. That proves to be effective. And the program is absolutely effective. It's not just, here's your psychedelic, everything's gonna be great. It's really utilizing this as a tool that can be most effective for healing.
So I'm sure Heroic Hearts Project needs a little help, right?
Yes.
Because you want to help more people out there. Where can people go to find out a little bit more?
So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and so all money that comes to us is, we're registered by the IRS. All the donations go to supporting veterans and their families. We also have a spouse program. So people can go to heroicheartsproject.org and learn more about it. They can donate there, and all the money goes directly to supporting these veterans, moving this conversation forward. And like I said, don't take my word for it. Listen to the testimonials, read the information. The bottom line is we need more tools. The tools that we're having are just not working across the board, not only for veterans, but for mental health in general. And even if this can help move that needle a little bit, then we should absolutely look into it. Every single veteran deserves every tool out there, and they just don't have enough right now.
It is a real problem. Fascinating solutions.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your
real
service.
quick, I'll promote my the new book, so the Veterans Field Manual to Psychedelics. We have a few resources out there. So for people who want to learn more about this, all the information about the mental health that veterans are going through, how psychedelics can help, it'll be on Amazon soon.
Jesse Gould, thank you very much.
Thank you guys
for
so much.
your service too. And Fox 5 is proudly saluting our nation's veterans.
Well, as Rosanna was pointing out there, Fox 5 is very proud to support Camo, our cause, in support of Honor U.S. Vets their campaign, and you can join by making a donation, picking up limited edition Fox US Vets merchandise, and by wearing camo tomorrow on Veterans Day. And you can post onto your socials with the hashtag Honor US Vets so we see it and we can work with it. You can donate, shop, learn more about how you can fight against homelessness of veterans by scanning that QR code that we're going to put up on your screen periodically on all our newscasts, and right there. Thank you, Brian K. And you can also visit, you can go to .fox/USVets to learn more. That's a little preview of what we're working on for the next hour. We're pointing out, too, before we go out on this, that the treatment of veterans, in particular, those who come back from active combat, so many of them are dealing with severe PTSD. That you heard that gentleman speaking about the use of psychedelics to treat U.S. vets. There used to be a much more narrow view of treatment options for veterans dealing with PTSD, but after a lot of work by veterans as part of that effort, there's an acknowledgement that the suicide rate amongst returning veterans is just way too high. And so some of those primary studies are being conducted here in New York at hospitals and research facilities in New York to find other ways to help veterans cope with the trauma that they received while they were serving this country and making it a safer place for us. So all of these things are things we're talking about here at Fox 5 as we approach Veterans Day tomorrow. There's the parade tomorrow that's easily festive, but there are a lot of serious issues as well, and we're going to explore all of them. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to update you with what's happening on the Senate floor as we've been watching it the whole time. And we're also going to talk to our Teresa Priolo, who is out at Newark International Airport. There's a lot going on in the skies, or you could say very little going on in the skies as a result of what's happening. And we're going to get the latest update from her as well. So we'll take a break here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Newsroom Live. All eyes are on Washington, D.C. tonight, in particular what's happening on the Senate floor as they move to end the stalemate after 41 days of a government shutdown. It is not a done deal, but many people expect it to happen. What you're seeing right now happen on the Senate floor is the debate on some other matters, as some senators are trying to jam in other items into this spending package, including one about hemp, which seems to have very little to do with the predicament this country finds itself in. Now, we have talked about in the first hour of this Newsroom Live session the impact on this, the impact this shutdown is having on Americans, in particular, tens of millions of families that are going hungry with the interruption to their food stamp benefit program. And there is another core issue that is playing out across airports across the country. So it isn't just the food bank issue that we talked about, but now we're going to talk about what's happening. And there seems to be another headache of a day with over 2,200 flights scrapped today. Over the weekend, ever since Friday, there were about 5,500 flights that were scrapped. There was over 2,000 yesterday alone. The Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, had said on Friday he needed to cut 4% of flights out of 40 of the nation's busiest airports. And by tomorrow, it'll be 6%. And by the end of the week, the FAA says it'll be 10% of the flights that have to be cut. Now, we're going to go to Teresa Priel in just a moment. But Brian, going to first play the sound that she gave us to play so you could get a sense of what it is that travelers are telling Teresa at Newark Airport tonight.
They canceled our flight for 8 o'clock this morning. No, 11 o'clock this morning. Bumped us off first class. Now we have to fly at 6:30.
6:30 p.m.
Yes.
And is that delayed at this point, or is it on?
So far it shows on time. I pray it's on time.
And so we were fearful because that's the reason why we thought for sure our flight was going to be canceled, delays. It's been smooth sailing.
All right, and with that, we welcome Teresa Priolo back from vacation. She's been back for a week, actually, but I haven't gotten to see her. I guess, Teresa, this is going to have to count as seeing you, even though our desks are pretty close together. I still haven't seen you in person yet. First of all, welcome back. And second of all, can you just take us through what things are like there today and what the situation is right now?
Yes, Arthur, it is nice to see you and nice to hear you, and I look forward to a proper catch-up once things have reopened here at the airport. Here at the airport, at Newark Airport today, I must tell you, I mean, we do a lot of these stories about chaos at the airport during holiday travel season or when there's really bad, weather issues. There is a noticeable difference in the way that people are approaching these delays. They're upset, they're frustrated, but they're not angry. They're not, for lack of a better way of putting it, nasty. They do understand that this is a result of the shutdown, and I think they're keeping at top of mind that although they're not making their flight or their connection is delayed, there are people who are not being paid in all of this. And so they're really keeping this all in perspective. So here at the airport, the hope is that once the shutdown ends, things will return to normal. Let me show you the big board. It's interesting. This side, we're seeing lots of delays. This is a little bit more of the international flights. Not all, but some, Tel Aviv, Toronto, some flights delayed to Washington, Dulles. Moving along, we have delays, smattering of delays along all of the different boards. Now, what I can tell you I'm noticing is that it seems as though by and large, the international flights are on target. I'm told by passengers that's on purpose, that they have been told that the airlines won't really mess with the long haul flights, the international flights, and they won't mess with their hubs. So, for example, Delta to Atlanta or United in Denver, Chicago, places like that. They try to get those flights out. It is the secondary airports, the regional airports, the connecting flights that are the ones that are being reduced and really impacted. But remember, so many of those flights fuel so much of the traffic that occurs in a place like Newark, JFK, LaGuardia, etc. So again, we are seeing delays, but we are also seeing a lot of planes get off on time. Let me take you over here to TSA. This, honestly, I feel like it's the story of the day. Despite those delays, look at this. There's basically nobody here. It's an estimated wait time of less than 5 minutes, which really is incredible given the continuing shutdown and the days and days of delays. Now, by some of the numbers, Arthur, you were talking about how this is impacting flights nationally. More than 1,400 flights canceled today. That's about 5.5% of total flights. That is more than Secretary Duffy's proposal of 4% flights impacted. And we're seeing the same amount of things happen at JFK and LaGuardia. Here at Newark, 265 flights in and out of Newark were delayed, and roughly 100 to 120 cancellations. So as I mentioned at the top, travelers here, they're taking this in stride. They are frustrated, yes. They are very frustrated by the fact that they can't get to where they need to go. I just want to give a quick shout out to all of the parents that I have seen here today with screaming, crying kids. still just trying to make it on their way. It's never easy to fly with children, especially if you don't know if your plane's going to make it, and what's going to happen. And I've also heard from a lot of flyers that those families are also doing what they can once they get on the plane and get on the tarmac to keep the kids calm as these delays rage on. So it's just one issue after the next, and people and families are just doing what they can to get to their destination, wherever it may be.
Teresa, you showed us the board, and thank you for that. The delays, about how long are they running on average, and do you see a difference in how long international flights are delayed as opposed to domestic flights?
Let me take you over. Let's just see real quick. I haven't been following what the delay actually is. It doesn't say what.
Right, I couldn't see it either, right?
Delay. Oh, actually, okay. So like Charlotte, for example, if you take this one right here, Charlotte, for example, flight was supposed to leave at 7:56. It's now delayed until about 9:15. That's that one there. We've been seeing quite a few delays out of Chicago. Now, I do understand that Chicago is dealing with a weather system, so that might also be impacting this. But that one United 546. It was a 7:30 departure, and now it's moved up to about 10:30. Okay, let's move it on here to some of the more international. Oh, well, London is on time. London Heathrow is on time. Down here is where I saw some more delays. Toronto 7:35 departure, now delayed until 9:10. So it's not a significant amount of time, but not to confuse people, Arthur, but it's also not an insignificant amount of time. I mean, 2 hours quickly spirals into 3 hours. And I did talk to one woman from Chatham, New Jersey, who flies for work every week, multiple times a week. And she told me her flight yesterday was delayed 6 hours. Fine, she was okay with that. Ooh. They got on the flight. It was a United flight. They got on the flight, and then there was a 3-hour delay on the tarmac because other planes kept getting priority in front of her plane to take off. And then finally the pilots timed out, and everybody went back to the gate, and they needed to then find a new flight, be rebooked. They were told if you didn't rebook, you can get your luggage in a week. If you did rebook, we'll get you your luggage in a couple of days. I mean, again, for most people, if you're going on vacation, you don't want your vacation ruined, but this is the way a lot of people work, and also this is the way a lot of people conduct family business. So you never know why people are rushing to get to where they need to be. A 6, 7, 10-hour, 24-hour delay is significant.
Right, and we should point out that the advice coming into today was that the flight experts were telling us that many of the airlines were saying, if you want to rebook, if you want to cancel, we will waive the fee, even for seats where usually they don't allow for any of it, right? The coach seats where you have no leeway whatsoever, that the airlines were saying you want to reschedule, we'll help make that happen. And I guess that's really good advice. And then I guess the other thing, I don't know if you have any particular thoughts on it, but Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, says that some air traffic controllers have in fact quit, and that even when the stalemate over the government shutdown ends, that it will take days, if not a week, for things to get back to normal. And you and I both know it takes years to train air traffic controllers. So the ramifications from this will very possibly will drift certainly to the end of this week or into next week, and might even take a bite out of Thanksgiving travel. Is that the feeling that you have about this?
That is exactly what we are hearing here. I mean, we've done stories on the fact that there's not a massive pipeline for air traffic controllers, a training pipeline. So that's one thing. Yes, people are concerned that this is not a quick fix. This is not a switch of flip of a switch here where, today there are delays and tomorrow there won't be delays. This is not a moving weather system that just needs to clear and then the schedule will resume. You have flights that have been pulled out of service. They need to be put back into service. There is coordination that needs to happen at these airports in order to make sure that these flights can take off and land safely. It's a volume issue. It is a logistic issue. There are a lot of moving parts here, and that cannot be overstated by any means. And yes, people are very concerned about the holiday travel season, and they're wondering what this is going to look like. I mean, again, there are a lot of people trying to get to where they need to go. Add to that the increased volume of the holidays. I mean, it's really, it is a mess through and through. But I do want to just mention one thing, Arthur. I heard this from the passengers that I talked to that were at their destination eventually. We also talked to some people as they were leaving. They say the flight attendants and the pilots have been incredible. They are always our lifeline. Once you get on that plane, it's you and them together through the flight. You count on them for everything. They are the ones that save our lives. They are the ones that help us through the flight. But now they're also sort of our communication. They are the ones that are sitting there keeping passengers calm, relaying information, explaining to them what's happening, because it's one thing to say, sorry, your flight's delayed. It's another thing to really explain to them what that means, what it looks like, and what they have the power to do in the midst of all this. So I've heard it from people. There's a lot of stuff out there on social media. It's really heartening to see. They don't ever get enough credit, but they definitely aren't getting enough credit in the midst of all of this.
All right, Teresa Priolo, thanks for making that point. And with that, we'll bid you adieu. See you on the news at 10 o'clock tonight. Really appreciate your time. All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the other news today, including New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani moving very quickly to start filling key positions in his administration with 2 key appointments today. We'll get into that after this break. All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live. It is 8:13 p.m. on this Monday, November 10th. Again, we have, as of tonight, we are expanding our coverage to 2 hours in the evening, and it's a good thing too, because there is so much going on, including what you're looking at here. And before we go to that, basically, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani returning from that Somos trip that most politicians take right after Election Day, immediately making some key appointments. Last week, the announcement was how quickly he was moving on his transition team, and with some notable figures going joining that transition team. And today he tapped Dean Fullahan, who is a well-known veteran of city and state government. He worked under Sheldon Silver, who was at one point found guilty on corruption charges, I believe, although Dean Fullahan was not charged in that case. He's a gentleman on the right, 74-year-old. He also served under former Mayor Bill de Blasio as first deputy mayor when Bill de Blasio was in office, and he was responsible for day-to-day operations. And this is El Bisgard Church. She is a top aide, was a top aide, and I believe chief of staff for Zohran Mamdani when he was in the state assembly. Then went to work on his election campaign, which obviously, in a very, very short period of time, turned Mamdani from a just about unknown, I was going to say relatively unknown, but an unknown elected official here in New York to the mayoral-elect, navigating with a team that was considered very young and somewhat inexperienced, but look where they ended up. So he made the announcement today that she would essentially be the chief of staff in his post. Now, worth noting before we go to Mamdani's announcement itself that previous mayoral-elects have sort of waited until December before they started appointing people to key positions. But in this case, he's doing it right away. There are political analysts who take note of that, which is why we relay it to you. Let's have a listen in, and we'll let you hear as much of his announcement today as possible. Let's roll it.
I first want to say thank you to Nancy Cantor, president of Hunter College, for having us here today. It is a privilege to be here as we take the next big step forward into our mayoral transition. And it feels fitting to be standing in the very place where FDR shaped his own presidential transition and where he and his team devised the foundation of the New Deal, including Social Security. I've said many times that, above all, my politics is one of consistency. When we launched our campaign in October of last year, we made clear that it would be focused on tackling the affordability crisis that devastates far too many working New Yorkers across these 5 boroughs. Those who work from dusk until dawn, and still, it isn't enough. But that consistency extends beyond our policy priorities. Nothing has been more unwavering within this movement than our commitment to excellence. Excellence was the rubric around which we built our campaign team, and it will be the framework through which we approach every governing decision. And excellence is not abstract. It will be reflected in the highest levels of City Hall and the advisors who most shape my decision-making. Today, I am proud to announce my first deputy mayor and my chief of staff, 2 leaders who have deep experience guiding our city and state through challenging moments, possess the fresh, innovative ideas needed to transform our city, and the expertise to help me deliver on the campaign promises that resonated with more than 1 million New Yorkers a little over a week today. First, I want to announce my first deputy mayor, Dean Fullahan. Except that I know for many, he will require no introduction. I'm grateful to him for returning to public service, and I know he has chosen to do so because he believes in our administration's ability to deliver universal childcare, making the slowest buses in America fast and free, and freezing the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants in this city. Dean has been an incredibly influential leader and manager in New York City government and state government for almost 5 decades. No one is better versed in how city government functions, how it engages productively with leadership in Albany. Anyone who knows Elle knows her as someone unapologetically committed to the cause of improving the lives of working people. These are not just the political positions that she holds, they are deeply humanistic principles from which she never strays. For all of us who have been fortunate enough to work alongside her, Elle is our moral compass, our brilliant strategic center, and a genuinely kind and selfless person. As my chief of staff, Elle will remain intimately involved in every decision we make, from who joins the administration, to how we enact our agenda, to how we ensure that government remains accessible and transparent to every New Yorker. And together, alongside Dean, she will be responsible for ensuring that our commitment to excellence remains inviolable, and that City Hall remains what we have sought to make it, a shining beacon of good governance across the city, across the state, and across this country. I know that many have watched our victory with fascination and excitement. My goal is that the triumph we won last Tuesday to quickly be subsumed under the drumbeat of achievements that we deliver from City Hall, achievements that make immediate, meaningful differences in the lives of New Yorkers too often forgotten and ignored by those who have held positions such as these. These leaders alongside me are only the first of many that we will announce. I hope their reputations and records of accomplishment are proof of intent to deliver tangible change. This is a moment of opportunity that comes along rarely, and we seize upon it to usher in a new day for New York. Thank you, and I would now like to introduce my Chief of Staff, L. Bisgard Church.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor-elect. My name is L. Bisgard Church, and I am so proud to stand here to accept the role as Chief of Staff for the incoming Mamdani administration. It is an immense honor to serve the people of this city. It has been emphasized that the mayor-elect and I belong to a new generation. That's true. And as we work to turn the page on a politics devoid of ambition and beholden to special interests, it is incumbent on us to fill this administration with experienced people at all levels who have been on the right side of this fight. I am thrilled to be working closely with First Deputy Mayor Dean Fullahan. The incoming administration offers bold vision combined with determined realism. We are imaginative in our outlook, energized by the work and to work very hard, and deeply invested in the future of this great city, because we will be here a long time. New Yorkers rejected the argument that they shouldn't expect much from their leaders in this election, that they shouldn't expect rigorous ethical standards from City Hall or demand competency, efficiency, and transparency at every level of their government. New Yorkers were asked, lower your hopes, accept slow buses, soaring housing costs, and unaffordable childcare, because that's just how things are. New Yorkers responded decisively to this grim and unimaginative politics. 1 million people said last week that they want more from City Hall, that they expect better from their leaders. They said loudly and clearly, it is not asking too much that New York be a place people can afford to live. The mayor-elect has received a democratic mandate. We take seriously the responsibility of this mandate and all that it will take to run the city well. We will work relentlessly to make good on our campaign promises. During my tenure, I promise that this administration will be open-minded.
Okay, and we come back now because it was very, very important what Ms. Bisgard Church just said there. She said that the voters gave Zohran Mamdani a mandate. What she's referring to is the 50% vote that he earned in the general election. And she also said, we will be here a long time. Also saying that there will be a balance, basically, of the lofty goals that have been echoed by Mr. Mamdani and realism. That's a very important balance. And as maybe part of that balance today, there's one male appointment, one female appointment. With a male appointment, he's 74 years old and very experienced in city government. He'll be the top deputy at City Hall. She's going to have a key position too. I don't have her age offhand, but she's not 74. Right, so the appointments for 2 key positions today were made by the mayor-elect. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Nick Gregory about the weather that we have coming, because it's kind of a tricky week, as you might have noticed when you stepped outside and felt how cold it was. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live. Now you can see what we're looking at as we monitor what's going on around the city and around the country. And that's how we take you through Newsroom Live. But right now we have Nick Gregory here. We could talk about the weather tonight as it's gotten colder. And tomorrow's the parade.
Lots going on. You know, a little bit of shot of my bald spot there. Too,
mine too. Hours.
So yeah, we've got a lot going on weather. I mean, today's been an active day. We started out mild, and then you see on our picture here, Arthur, that storm that came by brought us some rain late morning, the early afternoon. Here's the future cast. And look at the blue. Those are snow showers and snow squalls. And yes, tomorrow afternoon we might see a few snow showers here, particularly north of the city. So that gives you an idea where our temperatures have gone here. We were in the upper 50s early this morning. It's now 39 in New York City.
It's not getting better.
We've had a 20-degree temperature drop. In the last couple of hours, we've been dropping almost a degree per hour. Right? So
is that considered pretty fast?
That's kind of dramatic. I mean, we've had worse when you have, like, in the middle of the winter, you have a real Arctic plunge, and it starts dropping like 5 degrees per hour. But look at tonight where we're going to end up. Low 20s north and west, and 33 in the city, even again near the coast, freezing, in some areas below freezing, which is why we have that freeze warning up for the city and Long Island and southern Westchester and Connecticut. So, and tomorrow, not much improvement. I mean, the average high should be 56. Only low 40s tomorrow. Windy day, winds gusting 40 miles an hour, and there'll be
all day tomorrow, evenly.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Okay.
Sustain 15, 20, gusting 40, and again with some snow showers possible in the afternoon. So with that wind, though, it's going to feel more like in the upper 20s to low 30s. So be prepared for that. And then it doesn't really warm up that much on the 7-day. You know, 49 on Wednesday, still a bit windy. There you go. Low 50s Thursday, Friday. No storms, just chilly. Saturday, step backwards into the upper 40s, and then next chance of any real significant anything around here is really Sunday into Monday. A little late day rain. Sunday may linger into Monday. Still in the lower 50s for the most part.
What's your favorite day of the week going to be, if you call it now?
Weather-wise or personally?
Well, hey, we got time to talk about both.
That would be the weekend, of course. So, I mean, probably Saturday. I mean, it's going to be a cooler day, but that'll be like the least wind
and least windy
and a lot of sun. So that would be the next day.
And at least this isn't the Thanksgiving Day parade tomorrow, right? Then you got to start thinking about bringing those floats.
Yeah,
is that floats?
Right. And like what's happening up in northern New York State now, in northern Vermont, they're getting 4 to 8 inches of snow tonight. So, yeah. So we're not going to see that, but it is going to be cold here tomorrow. So if you're planning to go to the parade, right, and it kicks off at noon, right?
Yes.
So it'll be like 39 degrees. That strong wind. Wind chills in the upper 20s, low 30s, and high again only 43 tomorrow.
Find a good crowd to tuck into.
Oh yeah, definitely layered up tomorrow. It's going to be cold, especially if you're just standing around watching the parade. If you're moving around, you can generate a little body heat, but if you're just standing watching, it's cold.
And last question: if we're going to see snow, when might we see it?
As
like
in
which day? Like early in
here?
the day? Late? Yeah.
Oh, snow showers.
Snow showers.
It'd be in the afternoon. Midday into the afternoon. Yeah, tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
The strong. The squalls coming off the Great Lakes may make it down. Some of them, what's ever left over, may make it down here. But, we want to talk about the winter there if we have time.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's put that graphic up again, because we're heading into a La Nina pattern.
That's never good. Is that where it always
comes
up?
Well, it depends now. There's
on the
strong
news side
La
of
Ninas
things,
and
when
there's
you say La Nina, it's bad news.
Well, there's strong La Ninas and there's weak La Ninas. That regardless, we're in a La Nina pattern. That's definitely true, because we can see, and what that does is it tends to make colder than average temperatures across the northern states, particularly the plains states, and warmer than average in the southeast. So, time to head to Gulf Coast or Florida. But it also then makes it wetter than average across parts of the Ohio Valley and close to our neighborhood. Usually we're sort of right in the middle. Usually La Nina winters, we tend to be a little milder than average and sometimes a little lower than average precip. But, you can see this is the water temperature chart from the other day. So you see where I've circled the little blue eddies there. You see
yes.
So that's La Nina. So this is called an anomaly. So it's telling me above or below average temperatures. So the blue is below average, which is again why we're talking La Nina. That's a classic La Nina setup right there, although it's weak. So what can happen with La Ninas? So strong La Ninas, like the one we had a couple of years ago, we only had 2.3 inches of snow.
I remember that.
Yeah, but the weak La Nina, 2017-18, we had over 40 inches of snow. So that was a weak to moderate.
Who knew I would root for La Nina?
Yeah, see there. Well, that was weak to moderate. So we're going to see a weak La Nina, and it may actually end by end of February, early March. So they get milder than average weather with below average snowfall. Again, last year was a very similar, very weak La Nina. We had barely 13 inches of snow. We should get 25 to 30 inches on average. So we'll probably be in that same range. You and I just talked about this an hour ago, right? The polar vortex. So that's when it's fractured that we talked about, or disrupted. You notice the little
because
waves.
La Nina cuts into
No,
it,
this is on its own. This
Okay.
is a separate element. But this is what can happen is it gets fractured, turns into those waves that we talked about. And so this is what's happening now. We have one of those waves that's dipped down to give us this cold outbreak here in the next day or two. So if you get that, in January, it really gets cold. And then if it sets up with this type of a La Nina pattern, the storms will come down from central Canada, right? They'll trek along the jet stream. They'll pass just to our north.
Right.
So that tends us to get more rain, snow mix, a little milder than average. But sometimes those storms then redevelop on the coast and turn into nor'easters. That's what we have to watch. And so I'm thinking, again, our snowfall forecast for the season here, a little bit below average, 15 to 20 inches for the city, nearby suburbs, and the coast. And then it ramps up as you go further north, 20 to 25, North Jersey, Hudson Valley. And further north, Catskills region, upstate New York, much more. Look for
Looks like Vermont's already going to have
yeah,
that
they're
total by
getting,
then.
and the Adirondacks, northern New York State, they're getting 48 inches tonight. So that area does very well in a La Nina pattern. The further north you go.
All right. Well, lots to look forward to.
There you go.
I'll take the vortexes in November. The January ones.
Yeah, the November ones you can kind of
I'm
tolerate.
not that manly. I can't do it.
Builds character.
All right, that's right. All right, Nick Gregory, we'll let you get ready for the 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
In the meantime, we'll take a break. Thanks so much.
Okay, sure.
Right, man.
You got it.
It sounds perfect. I'm talking to our Duarte Geraldino right now. Today, Strap Hankers campaign, if I have it right, and as we take a look at some traffic around the city, like there's always traffic in the city, but how MTA buses do on the roads is a key question. And today, there's a group, NYPER, New York Public Interest Research Group, if I have that right, and Duarte will correct me if I'm wrong. But they handed out the Pokey Awards today, which is for the slowest bus. They handed out the Schleppy Award today, which is for the least reliable route, in order to get a rundown of all of today's results and what it means, not just for us right now, but in particular with the mayor coming in who wants to make some changes to the bus system, even if it's at the fare box. Let's bring in Duarte Geraldino right now. Duarte, it's cold out there tonight. Thanks for doing this. Give us a rundown of what's happening with this tonight.
Well, so this group, they ranked buses. They wanted to know what was the least reliable, the fastest, the slowest, and it really sheds a light on what it takes to get around this city. There are a lot of people who take buses. Oftentimes we think about people taking the subway. That's the major form of transportation. I'm over here in Manhattan, and you often see a lot of people taking buses. The one you mentioned earlier, that M42 on 42nd Street that takes you from the west side all the way to the east side, some people are saying it takes them sometimes 20 minutes to get across town on the bus. You could walk it in that amount of time. Now, according to this new survey, it sometimes goes about 5 miles an hour. So you're sitting there a lot of times. We spoke with this one woman, and she told me that when she was younger, she would just walk it, but now she has to just grin and bear it because she's a little bit older, and she often takes a nap on that crosstown ride because she has no other choice. She doesn't want to walk it because it's too much for her physically. She has to take the bus, and this is what she's dealing with. So it's a little bit challenging.
All right, and there are some things that are going to change the composition, right? And before we get to that, under Mayor Adams, he was a former police officer. It was a political appointment at the Department of Transportation in their commissioner, Ydanis Rodriguez. There are experts who tell us that political appointment maybe kept the city from advancing when it came to bus lanes and Fordham Road being an example, which was designated. The research was done. It was supposed to become a bus lane. The Mayor Adams reversed that. So there were steps during this, during this administration, where things maybe had an opportunity to move forward, but did not. Now we're getting Zohran Mamdani. He's talked a lot about wanting buses to be free. Have you had a chance to take a look into what type of infrastructure needs there are? Or do we need more bus lanes? Where in particular? I mean, 34th Street's been discussed as one of them. Have you had a chance to give some thought to that tonight?
Yeah, so the question is complex and a little bit loaded in the sense that free buses imply that there's a huge demand for it and that price is keeping some people away from it. But when you dig deeper, what it is free, reliable buses. So if the buses were slightly more reliable, then there'd be more demand. In Mamdani's case, he's saying that the fastest buses should also be some of the most reliable buses and affordable. So you think about places like Queens, they got this award, this Q8 bus, because you never know when it's going to arrive. He says in an area like Queens, where it is so bus dependent, that you should have buses that are cost effective, but in order to make them cost effective, you have to make them attractive, which means putting in a lot of bus lanes like this. I'm going to show you, because I'm at a bus lane, and I can show you what these things look like right now. Hold on one second. This is a new show. So you see these bus lanes, these red bus lanes?
Right.
Right beside. You have situations where, in theory, you need a place to stop, but you also need places to go by. And when there are cars that are double parked, these buses can't go by.
Right, it's a meaningless bus
Making
lane.
them free doesn't solve this problem. So his biggest challenge is going to be making the buses more affordable, not just, and making them more reliable, not just free.
Right. Right, great point there. And some of the buses, there is a program now that takes pictures of license plates, but we also are in a city where people, some drivers are playing games in terms of having illegal license plate covers. So all that enforcement will be interesting. To our knowledge right now, the mayor-elect has not picked anybody or named anybody as the incoming transportation commissioner, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then finally, one last thing to talk to you about. Andrew Albert, a longtime MTA board member, said that one of the things that'll help is when we do away with MetroCard and other payments, when it's just Omni, when it's tap, that people will be able to get on and off faster. You agree with that?
In theory, but really, that whole program was the MetroCard itself was designed to make things faster. When we moved from cash to the MetroCards, it has, but again, it's just a question of the system. There are some places where, like over here, you can get a pass ahead of time. Let me show you, where you can get one of these passes essentially pay ahead of time
you're at a select
to prevent you from taking time away and actually swiping your card into the bus. A system like this would be ideal.
Right. It saves
everywhere.
load time, right? Load time is what slows a bus down if they've got to wait for people to get on and pay. But this way, people pay and get right on. You're at a select bus stop, it looks like.
Yes, that's exactly what is one of these select bus stops. The other thing is, with your Apple Pay and all these electronic paying systems, that's one clear way to do it. And you ride the bus right now, most people are using that system right now. It's sort of surprisingly popular right now. So the whole issue of a Metro card, I don't know if the Metro card will last the next 10 years.
Oh, it's definitely not. The Metro card's just about done. I think at the end of this year they're going to phase out the use of the cards, and maybe they'll still accept it if people have value on it. But I don't think they're going to sell anymore. I got to check that. But I think by the end of this year they're going to stop selling Metro cards. They want everybody over on the Omni. And then last thought worth pointing out that bus speeds have improved vastly across the city. But I guess there's plenty of room for improvement is the point, and we'll hear more about that tonight when Dorothy Geraldino is released from this obligation and puts together his report for the 10 o'clock news. Dorothy, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it, man.
All right, thank you. It's freezing out here. Stay warm.
Get warm. Go get warm.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some stuff going on in the sporting world, and a lot of drama for a non-stage event. Anyways, our Kendall Green has been following a couple of sports stories of interest to us locally today. And when we come back, we're going to talk to him about what's going on there. All right, welcome back to Newsroom Live. I'm joined by our Kendall Green right now. You're pretty much our sports reporter today.
Yeah, I'll do it today.
And one of the things, as you pointed out, it broke last night that two major league pitchers, one of them a closer, both of them for the Cleveland Guardians, and one of them being a closer, were alleged to have taken part in some illegal gambling, and it was pretty significant. Can you explain what it is that they were charged with?
Yeah, basically a pitching scandal. Both Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz, they were both indicted yesterday. I think it was developing in our 10 o'clock newscast, but they were indicted for basically texting their pitches to bettors, basically saying, I'm going to throw this pitch, and those bettors benefited from those.
Okay, now explain this, right? Because we know that people bet. Look, we're not. You and I aren't big. We don't. I don't know. I don't think you do. Anyways,
I can't.
Yeah, we can't afford it.
You're right.
But you know, we can bet on the outcome of games. We know that, right? And
Right.
sometimes you can bet on like how much the team wins by or loses by. But so there is a particular wager that people can place that's purely based on a single pitch.
Right.
And what is it? That it's a strike or not, or the speed?
Basically, the velocity of the pitch and whether it's going to be, as you mentioned, a strike or a ball. So, and there's so many niche markets in betting based on what these experts told me today. There's so many that you can dive into, but this one specifically, they decided they wanted to limit the cap on pitching specifically, major sports books that operate a lot of the betting at MGM, FanDuel, things like that, they've all, about a 98% share of the market, they've all basically said we're going to limit the pitching bets to $200 per pitch. So
what was it before? Was it unrestricted?
That's the question I asked. It was unrestricted. So if I have knowledge that somebody's going to bet, maybe, you know, I'm going to put in $15,000 on one pitch that I know is going to happen. I know he's going to throw a ball into the dirt. I'll put $15,000.
Did you see the pitches?
Unethically,
right.
you know.
Did you see the pitching examples in the indictment? So it was of Class A, and those pitches were bouncing. They weren't like just outside. He really, if the allegations hold true,
right,
it would appear that he made sure if he was intended to throw a ball, and so many of those pitches I saw hit the ground and then hit his catcher in like the guts and whatever. The catcher would like sort of keel over because he's not throwing that slow.
No mistake whatsoever. This wasn't like a random attempt to just try to do. It was kind of flagrant. It's almost, you see how obvious it was based on the reporting and based on the pitching that backs it up on the video that you just mentioned. But yeah, so basically the major sports bettings, sports books, they're saying we're going to put a cap on it, and because of what there's been already a damage to the integrity of the game, perception-wise, goes back to the Pete Rose days, and they're like, okay, this is one step that we can take. But one of the experts we spoke with, he said it's a good first step, but you have to maintain vigilance following up with it and add more teeth down the line as well.
And who's the impetus for this? Is it Major League Baseball or is it the betting sites?
I believe the betting sites basically came out and did it, and Major League Baseball supports it.
Okay.
So but with the integrity of the game at stake from Major League Baseball, it seems like both have some benefit to pushing this.
And we would point out right now, and they're not the only ones facing some problems too.
Right.
NBA's got some
Chauncey
issues.
Billups just a couple weeks ago that was indicted, and so with sports in general, there's a lot to follow when it comes to bets and whether or not the guardrails they're putting in place actually have teeth and actually work.
Now, when this broke last night, the pitcher Ortiz was taken into custody. I think he was getting on a plane at Logan International Airport in Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
Class A was very tersely termed not in custody.
Right.
Is he still not in custody?
At this point, it hasn't been clear if he's been arrested or not, but I know Ortiz has made I think he was arraigned today or made his initial appearance early today as well.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if the other guy's in custody just yet.
And the legal experts say they face maybe around 2 years or upwards of 2 years. If convicted, they could face that amount of time, right?
I've seen where it could be much more, significally more, but
right, that's the other thing that Brian Kidd brings up.
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen where it could be up to 65 years, but practically that won't happen. And with this being Major League Sports, they just want to make sure that there's an example made.
Right, and Brian Kidd brings up a point too. There were some questions about where they're from, if they're U.S. citizens, if they might face deportation. So the whole thing is
with this environment, you can't really put too much.
Right. And we would point out these are allegations. I haven't seen specifically, but I think Ortiz's lawyer said that his client is innocent. We haven't heard from Class A's attorney, but usually that's what we hear there too. So we'll point that out, and then. Should we get to the other?
Before you do that, you brought up a good point. EP Jeff brought up a good point. This contract, Emmanuel Clase has a 5-year, $20 million contract with the Cleveland Guardians that was signed in April of 2022. He profited based on this a few $1,000s.
That's with the allegations. That's in the indictment.
And you're looking at the percentage of how much you have been guaranteed through a contract, and you kind of forfeit it if you're found guilty with this type of conduct. It's kind of, I don't know. It's pennies for stupid. We hear Brian kind of chiming in our studio audience, basically calling it what it is. It's a serious gamble, for lack of better terms.
Everybody needs a friend like Brian K.
You know what I'm saying? Just be frank about
Run it through Brian K.
Luis Ortiz, I think he was set to earn about $782,000 in that last contract. So, I mean, still, you're giving up a lot for a little.
All right. And the other bomb that dropped today, more local, not the Cleveland Guardians, but over in Rutherford, New Jersey, New York Giants coach Brian Daboll fired.
You know that old saying, it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Okay. It wasn't on my mind.
It kind of applies here. He started on a high. He got Coach of the Year in 2022. Great starting record, but then
11 and 33 cents.
Exactly.
Not great.
Exactly. So and then four fourth quarter leads blown by double digits in this season so far. And I think last night's game was the final straw. It was kind of I know. You can't really defend it at this point.
And there are some sports reporters who say that he was running the rookie talent into the ground to save his job. Right?
Yeah.
And the nuances are interesting, right? You can teach a quarterback when he runs to slide to protect himself, and apparently those are things that were not being taught. It was just like
and not only not being taught, but this is a play that you're initially calling for this quarterback to run, and he gets a concussion after that. And this comes weeks after you basically did away with concussion protocol, stepping into the tent, getting a major fine from the NFL. From the NFL,
it's a serious infraction there. Right?
Yeah, and that's gonna. I mean, in looking at that contract, that was what $20 million. No, wrong guy. But a $5 million contract.
Year and a half, right?
A year and a half left on that $5 million contract. So yeah, you're paying that fine outside of it. It wasn't the best move. It wasn't solid coaching either. I talked to a couple fans and they were like, this just had to happen.
Right, but and before we roll out too much empathy, he will be paid through that contract, right? That's the definition of the contract from what I've heard. So basically he'll be paid to not work for a year and a half, which, I think many New Yorkers and many Giants fans in particular would be like, he's going to be all right.
He's going to be just fine. I think, a little bit of the embarrassment you may get, but the payment comes back for sure.
Okay, now the other question too is the person who hired him, right? The current general manager for the Giants.
Safe.
Yeah,
that's going to happen. Safe. And the thing, what was interesting about that part is I thought there would be more of a shakeup within that organization because of how Daboll has been performing and the owner's family and their relationship. But I guess they want to have something that's stable to stay intact going into the next year.
But it was a GM who was really big on hiring him, and one of the signs I was looking at, but obviously I was wrong, was that at the trading deadline, you saw what the Jets did in dealing Sauce Gardner and Quentin Williams, right? The Giants were very quiet. So then the question in my mind was, are they not letting this GM make any trades because they don't want the next person to come in to have to inherit even more
be stuck with those
decisions that he made, right? So, but apparently, thus far, I'm wrong.
but what's interesting about that is the offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka. He's the person that's going to be interim. So you've had all these questions about decision making with the quarterback, with the running, how they're running their offense. This is the guy you're going to tap as interim head coach. So the decision making of this franchise
decisions were being made by Kafka, and how much of them were Brian Daboll decisions?
That's a good question. That's a good question. No way to specify who the delegation of power within that franchise.
And the culture of it is so important too.
Yeah.
Right. If Brian Daboll very famously had a disagreement with Wink Martindale when the New York Giants defense was super strong. Yeah. I know as a Cowboys fan, you might have a different opinion.
Hey, we're in New York. We can only talk about that in the newsroom. We can only talk about that with Mike Soft, Arthur. You can't do that, man.
Hey, this is Newsroom Live. This is what happens on Newsroom
Live. It's raw.
But no, the Giants defense was really well regarded, and Wink Martindale was considered to be one of the key reasons for that. And then Daboll, it's reported and not refuted that he got involved in a lot of those decisions, and Wink, out of frustration, said, "I'm out of here."
Yeah.
Right? And as unfortunately we see people do so well in other places after leaving New York, Daniel Jones,
Saquon Barkley,
right?
Got a whole Super Bowl out of moving, and
you could say that the Giants GM is really good at building Super Bowl teams, just not the New York Giants.
Not for themselves, though.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly. Like, you got to think of us. So I think there were a lot of sports reporters who have been saying that his style creates a culture of losing, and going 11-33 more recently. They had to make a move, but I guess we'll see. I mean, neither New York team is doing well this season. What do they combine for? 4 wins. The 2 New York teams combined.
Well, I'll just say no League of Champion parades.
We
can
save on. We're going to save on confetti budget.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. But also another point that I was going to make before I just blacked out here. Basically, I was just going to say that it's an interesting call to do away with him mid-season. You know, you got 10 games, you got 7 left. I guess, do you want to see what your offensive coordinator is about for a little while before you do some shopping around?
I had that same question, and I asked our very shy sports producer, Lou Albanese.
Very shy.
Who's the kicking and the screaming
very shy
guy. And what he said, if I can borrow from him, is he said that if you keep a guy around and you're losing, then it starts getting institutionalized. Basically, in his words, it goes in your bones.
Okay.
And he said, and at a certain point for a team to change course, you don't wait until the end of the year. You do it now, and you have a chance of retraining the culture amongst the players to not get used to this.
So almost like you just want a shock factor. Get with the program. Things are changing. If you don't change with it,
Yeah, because then I guess what they're saying now is if we're going to lose, let's lose new. Let's lose with new people instead of this way that that they see spiraling. If you're going to be ahead and blow these 4th-quarter leads like that, and your key players are all hurt.
Yeah, but the question is, what's the difference between it happening last night versus today after last night's performance versus the Broncos? I mean, they were 99.something% predicted to win that game in the 4th quarter, and you blow, I don't know, a 20-something point lead.
Yeah,
we watched that in the newsroom on Sunday.
We couldn't believe it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I thought it would have happened right then, but regards.
Oh, maybe they sent it by mail and didn't, needed to text.
Snail mail verification, two-step authentication, possibly, something like that. Right. But yeah, it was a rough season for him. But he got off to a great start. How we started.
If history provides any template for it, he'll go someplace else and be successful. So life ain't over.
Where do you think he goes? Where do you think he lands?
I don't know, man. And I don't want to guess right now. But we're going to thank Kendall for his time, and in our remaining time, Brian Kay is going to put up the slate. And since tomorrow is Veterans Day, we want to talk about our support for an effort, a camo effort, founded in our support for the U.S. military and returning veterans and the organizations that help support them. The effort is Honor U.S. Vets Campaign, and it is to go directly towards decoupling the common occurrence of homelessness in U.S. veterans. They served, they deserve better. And this is the effort that we have underway to contribute to it. And you can join us in our efforts by making a donation, picking up limited edition Fox US Vet merchandise. You can also scan that QR code that's on your screen right now and find out more about this effort and how you can be a part of it. If you have the bandwidth to help, we certainly welcome it. And tomorrow, which is Veterans Day, you can also wear camo and include the hashtag Honor U.S. Vets. So Kendall and I thank you very much. We're going to get ready for our 10 o'clock newscasts, and we'll be back here for this round of stuff tomorrow night. Thanks, Kendall.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for watching Fox 5's Newsroom Live. We're now joining Live Now's non-stop stream of live and breaking news.